Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blah. Thank you very much for joining me. Thanks a lot to everybody. A lot of you tuning in tonight because of the rapture. When I was a kid playing football, it was the rupture I was more worried about, because then we were hearing about things like jock straps that you had to kind of bind yourself into. But the rapture, oh dear. We'll get to that very, very soon. And whether we get a rapturous response for how we're going to take it, well, we'll see. But thanks for all of the responses for last week's show. Cracking. You loved it. There's no question about it. Great Lumley, Angel of the North, bit of a surprise. Dunstanborough, Alnwick, Edlingham, the Priory, Finkel, Chillingham, Castle. Well, that's the interesting thing, because a little bit later on, and I'm talking about in, well, the end of this coming month, we've got something special. And it's going to be this. Chillingham Castle. We're heading back. We're taking somebody that we know will be absolutely terrified and frightened. Good. It's been a while. We've taken an awful lot of people, and as you heard in our special free show that we dished out, a little flavour of Robson's World for those of you that hadn't tried it. I hope more of you will. And we've got big changes coming as well. We'll tell you about them at the time. As for this, Chillingham's a really stunning place. And I've got a photograph that I took of a ghost at Chillingham that I'll show you later on. We're looking at some ghost pics, some of the best, and they're cracking ghost pictures. So get ready for that. So anyway, that's Chillingham, and we're really looking forward to getting back there again. It kind of has always felt like home, and it certainly will again, I have no doubt. Messages from you. Michael with a message for Bushy, for Paul. Lovely shots, Bushy. Jenny, such a ray of sunshine, talking about the beard. Barry, Alan, I hope you're well. Do you know? I am. Thank you very much. Maz, hi from Turkey. Love Turkey. Took Nicola, one of the Night Owl girls back in the day. Jen was with us. We also had Tony searching for the most recognizable place in all of Istanbul, the Blue Mosque. We looked for it 3 times and we never found it. And you can see it from everywhere you look in the city. Don't know how I didn't. Went up back streets, into souks, into markets, never got close. But Tony and I did get to an underground city in the wilds of Turkey, an underground city that's constructed in such a way that it would have taken modern day excavators to dig it out, yet it was dug out, an absolute full city under the ground. How was it built? To this day, nobody knows, least of all the good people of Turkey. Also, Pat says we put out a cheapie show on Robson's World. We do flash sales from time to time, and we put out a show called The Creepers, about spiders and bugs and things that live in you and on you, and a whole host of creepy stories. And she said, nope, too scared to get that one. I'd be scratching all night. Elaine said pretty much the same thing. I listen in bed, Alan, I can't do it. And I understand not everybody has the necessary fortitude to listen to everything that we do. Diamond says hi. Hi. Julie, the Chillingham show was fantastic. Thank you, Jules. The Viking show. We've got a Viking show up online at the present moment. Let me give you this is a Robson's World. Boom. Hunting poltergeists, Viking castles. And that's where I happen to be. I head off to Viking parts, and we find a Viking haunted, ghost town, literally, an old Viking village that nobody lives in anymore, right on a fjord. And it's exactly what you'd think Viking castles and Viking settlements would look like. And we got 1 or 2 pictures of that kind of thing coming up a little bit later. Anyway, D, You remember last week we were talking about some of the things that we used to be able to identify and took for granted. My favorite lollipop story is it's just to show, it's just to demonstrate that the school that I went to was hugely antisocial and very unpleasant. If we went into our art class at school, this is John Marley Upper, which was way up past Throckley Way. If we went to John Marley Upper, the art class had these huge bottles of paint. And if you wanted to paint with anything, you'd have a splurge, then you put the top back on. Well, a lot of people used to just hello, sorry about that. My system just went down, but I was able to reload and get back on. So happy days. But no, some of the kids used to paint these, steal these paint. I'm so sorry about this. This has never happened before. We're getting a little bit of interference. Don't know where it's coming from. I should try and get through it as best I can. My apologies for you. We've dropped out twice now. If it happens again, I will detach everything and try coming in once again. However, let's keep our fingers crossed. But anyway, they pinched a few of these pots of paint. And when we were driving on the school bus home, on the school, it was a proper scholars bus. When we came around the corner next to the lollipop man, a few of the lads would try and squirt him with some of the paint. Nasty, evil, and wicked. We did smile, but it was the wrong thing to do. I can't ever remember anybody getting him, but we did have a couple of tries. Not me. I was merely watching, which makes me guilty too. But anyway, Dee's talking about lollipop ladies, and she says, my mum told me that the black lane, because she was a lollipop woman, the black lane on lollies, the actual gadget itself, is to chalk car registrations on that didn't stop. Well, I've never heard that, but it could be true. Kerry said, are you doing anything for Halloween? Chilling. And also, Mark sent a very nice little Hello, everybody. Again, sorry about that. We are still in the middle of the broadcast. Apologies to everybody that's hanging on in there saying, what the hell's going on? I've got some kind of interference and some kind of stuff going on. I'm not sure what it is. All I can do is keep reattaching and trying to keep going for as long as I can. Ellie says, my mum was a lollipop lady, bottom of Welbeck Road. So there you go. Strange, but true. Kerry says, I've always been listening to your grisly tales at night. We should try the new ones, they're stopping. And we've got another one that a lot of people are finding very popular indeed. A lot of people liking it. Adam's just taking it on. And it's this. It is Your Life in the 1990s, The Return of the Willy Warmer. And that's out this week. And it's really funny. It'll remind you of a million things that you'd forgotten, that you remembered. That's one of the joys. We've got Heather saying, did anybody else call sweets bullets? Yes, that came originally from black bullets, the sucky sweet that resembled musket balls, and that's kind of where they came from. My mum's mint imperials, I remember vividly, because they always tasted of the makeup she had in a handbag. Craig watched the show about the old radio station, and he says, brought back lots of memories. I grew up listening to the Night Owls, so comforting, a friend through the night, every night. How I miss those days. But you, sir, your show will always have a special place in my heart. I wish you well. Thank you very much for that. Adam sent in an image. You know, we were talking about sweets last week. Adam sent this in as well. It was his version of a Northeastern love heart. And that is boom. Yeah, brilliant. Alistair took advantage of Heritage Day. He says, I visited Berwick Jail on the first floor of the town hall in Berwick. I loved the show last week that you and Paul put on. Fantastic. More of them, please. It's so cool having a good drone pilot on board. See you soon. Well done, Bushy. Now, speaking of Alistair, he did not let us down. He came good with this week. Now, remember, I can't see anything. I can't even add myself to the screen. He sent this in. Boom. This is all Alistair. We'll be back yon end of valley. Here he is.
This is Berwick Jailhouse, and this room is for the condemned who are going to be executed in the morning. These are obviously the cells. Look at that for a bed for multiple people. If you see it closely, you can see the writing on the wall from all the prisoners.
You see one you get it from here? Oh, you can video it.
This is the courthouse. Where you get convicted and condemned.
Now, don't know how many of you noticed, but when Alistair was scanning the walls, there was a picture of a ship with 3 tall masts and sails that had been painted over, but you could still clearly see it. And that's because some of the people from Berwick were transported to Australia, to to Australia, and also to America, and and the Caribbean, because they were the first slaves, Scots and Irish rebels. Send them on their way so we don't have to fight them again. Well done, Alistair. That was great. Well done. Love the fact that you're presenting now. That's the business. Getting better all the time. Well done. Anne, bless Anne. I felt so sorry for Anne. Anne was a regular caller when we did the radio show, and she just let me know today that she lost her husband this week. So channel a little bit of love and care in her direction, and a little bit of gentleness and love. Blessings to her. And I'm so very, very sorry. Michelle asks, are you busy at Halloween? Yes. Gillingham. And also Robson's World doing a lot of special stuff as well. So Ghost Historian is going to be off the scale. No excuses to miss us. We're going to be everywhere this year. And also Lee, touting for work. Yes, in future, changes are coming. She loved the Wednesday show. She says, my mum lives in Great Lumley. The church is lovely. Well, at least during the day. And also, I think you addressed the issue well for the lady who lives in the haunted house where the children are not welcome. I did hear from somebody else in the same street who recognized the house because they knew the family that lived there first. And they say, we all keep it really quiet. And when people have literally, not because of me, but people in the past have knocked on the door and saying, there's supposed to be a really haunted house here. Everybody keeps stum, they keep it quiet, and I'm not at all surprised. And Lee said, it's all about respect, and you offered it in abundance. Thank you very much. Elizabeth, just wanted to say how great the show was on Wednesday. I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you. And also, we mentioned that we were doing a thing on the 1960s. This might not be the right picture, and it isn't. So I'll move. This is definitely Willie Warmers. Do you remember Willie Warmers? And the weird thing was, at that time, mums, nanas, and aunties all knitted. Nanas especially knitted. My mum knitted, and she would knit a willy warmer for you, and they all thought it was hilarious. And of course, nobody knitted me a willy warmer because nobody wanted to use all that wool. But this is the kind of stuff that they ended up looking like. And some of them had like an elephant's trunk and, big elephant ears and such. And some of them were like Bobby Dazzlers. Look at that. Wow. Showing all the technique, even a wonderful little support for a ball sack. I mean, come on, credit where it's due. And our 90s show, you see, the Willy Warmers came in the 60s, but they came back in the 1990s, big style. All of a sudden, people were coming out with Willy Warmers, and a lot of them weren't knitted. They were purchased. And of course, this was a time when, after the 1960s Mary Quant mini skirts, in the 90s, the mini skirt came back even shorter, even cheekier. And we had these tie-dye shirts. How many of you can remember doing this? And what you had to do, you'd get hold of a t-shirt, like a white t-shirt, always a white t-shirt, and you'd tie some rope around it, then you'd dip it in a bath with dye in it. Now, for the one on the left-hand side, say, I used to do this kind of stuff. I used to wear this paint to the eyeballs. What you'd have to do is you would dye it green, and then you take the rope off, and you'd notice that the rope had come different. So that is the end of our little tie-dye experience, and bizarre. And I must say that we are suffering just a little bit, but I will battle on as always. So let's keep on keeping on. The tie-dyes, what else have we got? We got a few other things. How many of you remember these Ben Sherman shirts? Ben Sherman's button-down collars. Oh, blame me. I wanted one of these so bad. And eventually, my parents bought me one for the birthday, so I looked smart instead of tie-dye. And I wore one to climb on the garages in Sutton's dwellings, the tenements nearby, and they'd put some of that paint on that doesn't dry. Utterly destroyed me posh Ben Sherman shirt. Got a couple of other things here from my trip to the Vikings. Some of the things from museums looking funky and amazing. They didn't have horny hats. They had helmets kind of like that. And they still have one or two original longboats. The museum is quite fascinating, and every town's got one, and they're all about Vikings and such. So pretty good stuff. Anyway, from there, Sheena, I made the comment about racism because I hate racism, and I said, if you don't agree with me, we stuff you. I still stand by that. And then she said, freedom of speech. You're entitled to yours. I was having mine. Freedom of speech. Got to cut both ways. And that was my freedom, and I was using it. Also, I respect everybody's views, and I don't care if you don't agree or disagree with mine, and that's what I was pointing out. Yvonne and Derek said, I didn't get your link for Chillingham audio. I've sent it personally to the two people who didn't, Yvonne and Derek. David says, other people are using my audio. That has always been the case since I started doing anything. Let's quickly get on to the rapture, because we don't know how long this sugly thing is happening, and I'm going to start talking a little bit faster than I normally would. The rapture, when all the dead Christians rise from the grave, that's what the rapture is. It's not in the Bible. The rise into the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Oh, could be aliens, you never know. Christians raised from the dead. Now, think who the Christians are, the inquisitors, all of the false witch finders, all of the crusaders who slaughtered millions, Mussolini, Goering, Adolf Hitler, who slaughtered millions. We're not just going to get the nice ones. First of all, you know it's all made up anyway, most of you, deep down, you know that there isn't an invisible man in this. You know, don't you? And I know some people are absolutely, I've been raised to believe in Presbyterianism, Methodism, and they all believe different things. And it's fine if you do. Enjoy your rapture tomorrow. Tomorrow it is going to be, apparently. The second coming of Jesus, tomorrow. We know there isn't one jot of proof. It's all about faith. And if you have faith, the rapture tomorrow. The rapture's not in the Bible. It's not mentioned in the Bible. It's really interesting because if it's not in the Bible, what's it about? It's been made up by somebody to be like an addition. Now, I looked into this to see where it came from. If you read Thessalonians, and somebody did back in the 1700s, so you're going back a few hundred years, there's a phrase that says, eventually Christians will be caught up in the clouds. And that's where the rapture came from, because that line. Now, what does that mean? Caught up in the clouds. Well, what the priests of the 1700s said was it means the rapture. And then if you read Corinthians, it says, a mystery changed in the twinkling of an eye at the last trumpet. And somebody in the 1800s went, it means the rapture. It could mean anything. We'll meet you at the last trumpet. Could be, there's going to be a child born called Louis Armstrong. It's a stretch. What it really says is there's a mystery about it all. The fact that something in the Bible says by the twinkling of an eye, that's not a 2,000-year-old phrase, the twinkling of an eye. It just isn't. So it was obviously one of the more recent rewrites. Also, tomorrow, if you believe, if you don't believe, just let them get on with it because it's their thing. Okay, respect them and let them get on with it and see it through. The Antichrist is coming tomorrow too. The Antichrist, he's going to emerge. There's going to be famines, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, floods, fires, a rise in false prophets, and the gospel will be preached to all nations. Well, first of all, it pretty much already is. Somewhere on earth right now, there is a famine. There will be earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, floods, and fire. You could have said that last year and the year before, and pretty much any year, somewhere on planet Earth, those things are going on. What should we expect tomorrow? I have to be honest with you. Nothing. It's not going to happen. And let me tell you why this came about. Now, if this had been the Archbishop of Canterbury saying, the stars are aligning, this is going to be amazing and incredible. Now, the reason that I'm going to be a little bit more cautious is this computer system that I've got has never gone down. Touching wood, it's never gone down. It's gone down 4 or 5 times in the last half hour for no apparent reason when I'm talking about the rapture. Anyway, all this rapture stuff came through because a preacher in South Africa claimed it was going to happen. And he said, it's the rapture on the 23rd. It's the rapture. It's finally here. Jesus is going to come back. The Antichrist, they're going to fight and battle and stuff. And over 20 million hits on American computers. Now people are organizing parties. People are asking other people to look after their dogs and their babies while they go to meet the Lord. Now, would he go to America? I'm not so sure. But anyway, there are parties planned all over the Bible Belt in the USA to meet their Savior. If it happens, I hope they have a lovely time. I hope there's cakes and jellies and exaltation and all of the things that you guys need to make me look even more stupid than I already do. And if it happens, that's fab. If it is, I would hope that any self-respecting savior or deity would sort out the Christians for all of the child abuse, all of the massacres, all of the crusades, definitely, and all of the other bad stuff that we've done, inventing concentration camps, scalping people, all the stuff that white folk do. I'm not knocking all white folk. I like to believe that the vast majority of us are always canny, nice, decent, friendly, helpful, will try and give rather than receive. I trust most of you are lovely folk. And if you're a Christian, 99% probably lovely people. But the 1% that abuses children and gets moved from church to church, oh, I hope he slams down. He, her, it, whatever God you believe in, whatever prophet you believe in. I hope all of these deities slam down on these scum. But I hope you have a nice rapture tomorrow, because that's that. Anyway, Adam just started the 90s show, loving it. It's his teenage years, apparently. Brian sent a really long, very good ghost story, and it's about this headstone that he sent me. And I haven't got time to read the whole thing tonight, obvious reasons. But this is the image that he sent. Once you click on it, there it is. Marjorie McCall lived once, buried twice. It's a very cool story he sent me. I'll have it sorted for next week. Eddie. I met Eddie in Jedburgh this week. And it was funny. He was sitting in like the Jedburgh Square, you know, the big square area where you can park some of your cars. And I parked mine up and I got out and he came up and he said, "Oh, it's Alan Robson." I said, "Oh, yeah. Hello. How are you doing?" And he says, "Do you want to show me?" Well, let's start that again. "Do you want to stroke me Cocker Spaniel?" And in retrospect, I'm beginning to wish that I'd chosen the Spaniel. Anyway, Sue and Paul says, "Alan, my mom was a very strong Catholic, and after years of listening to you, she's finally wavering a bit. Once on radio, when you were talking about religion with her, you told her to keep believing whatever she chose, and she did. But after our priest was moved for sexual assault, not arrested," oh, that's the majority, That was the end for her. Could you put the boot in, please, for my mum, Moira Barton? Moira, happily and easily, really. Holy relics. I've had another look for some more holy relics. 13 churches, Christian, obviously Christian churches, 13 churches say that they've got Jesus Christ's foreskin. The Pope refused to say which one is real. Let me answer that for you. None. Do you think you had a tip off? Anyway, the wife of a rabbi asked, you see, rabbis do that operation to take that little delicate piece of skin for no apparent reason, because it's much cleaner. It's very sensitive. Leave it sensitive. Don't get rid of the sensitivity. That would be my argument. I once got into a great deal of trouble in Heaton, Newcastle, visiting non-Orthodox Jewish community, because I started my chat to them by saying, can I just say that I'm feeling really proud? And the rabbi said, why? And I says, because I've got the only foreskin in the room. And fortunately, the audience laughed. The rabbi didn't laugh at all. And anyway, a rabbi was asked by his wife if she could use all of the cut off bits to make a handbag, because it's skin, you know, like buckskin or rabbit skin. So she sewed them all together. She made a lovely little handbag. And the good thing about it was that if she rubbed it, it turned into a suitcase. So anyway, King Henry VII, these are things, gifts given. He was the one that got St. George's leg as a birthday present. Random. In Rome, in one of the chapels in Rome, in Luc in France, and also Chalon-sur-Marne, they all have Jesus Christ's belly button. Okay. One church in Greece claims to have Mary Magdalene's vagina. I was so tempted to allege that one or two of the disciples said that they'd had that. But no, I'm not going to say it. In Geneva, in the cathedral, they had St. Peter's brain on display for 137 years. And when it was taken down to clean, they discovered it wasn't actually his brain. It was a large piece of pumice stone. You know, the stuff that you get the hard skin off your feet on. 60 churches, including 2 in Britain, claim to have the Virgin Mary's breast milk. 131 churches have St. Peter's finger and toenail clippings. The entire body of the Welsh Saint Taylor is in 3 separate churches all at once. And the a full pot of urine that belonged to Saint Giovanni Colombini, sorry, get his name right. It was claimed back in the day that because this was a saint's wee-wee, that it had healing properties. So pilgrims traveled to Rome to drink Saint Giovanni Colombini's urine to cure all of their ills. The church made claims that if you drank his urine, if you only had one arm, a new arm would grow. If you only had one leg, a new leg would grow. And on 2 occasions, they claimed that human heads grew back after they'd been decapitated. Drinking urine. Reminds me of that old advert on TV. You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsi, then I seem to remember. Sheila says, I remember driving one night and had the family in the car, and you had a call on about a man in Felling seen having sex with a horse, and you were hilarious about it. Did you get many stories like that? Yeah, we got one about a man with a dachshund. And I seem to remember my line then was, how low can you stoop? And probably a chihuahua. And Ice Age, cave art. This is something that many of you will not know. The Ice Age have a number of paintings on walls. You know those cave paintings with men literally having sex with an elk, sex with crocodiles. And apparently, if you are ravishing a crocodile, it makes you successful in your working life. You'd have to make it snappy. Inca shepherds all had chaperones so that they didn't bother the llamas. True. Frederick the Great never ever slept with his wife, but it was said that he had regular relations with his 11 whippet bitches. Pulled a fast one. In 1887, a soldier in the Utah militia was caught having relations with his horse. Both of them went to a military tribunal and were both sentenced to death. The horse was shot by a firing squad, and he served 10 years. In 1952, a man from Nigeria had sex in Hyde Park with a pigeon. 1930, a man guilty of relations with a duck, getting its down up. The Nigerian, incidentally, with a pigeon was not fined. Not for the act of relations. He was fined £10 because he took the bird back home and ate it. Don't talk about it anymore, just move on. And a man from Maryland caught rabies after, in 1996, we're not talking like ages, but 1996, this guy, Maryland, was driving along the road, hit a raccoon, and while it was still warm, you know the rest. Now, I mentioned that I was going to, Jesus, how did we get into that? That's you. Don't blame me for that. That was you. Anyway, ghost stories. I promised you that I had a cracker from Chillingham Castle. I brought it up online and I wondered who'd taken the photograph. And it says Robson's World, so it's one of mine. Anyway, this is Chillingham Castle. And can you see where the suit of armor is on the left-hand side? And if you can you see the man standing next to it? No legs, no lower torso, but there is definitely a man in that shot. Some of the shots are tremendous. Empty house, boarded up, broken windows, figure in the upstairs window, staring out. This is an image that, you know, we've said quite often that a lot of images and a lot of ghost apparitions seem to travel on a wavelength of something, like a different dimension, a different wavelength. Do you see this? It's all lined, and I don't understand why it would be lined. But you can see a man's full face, 2 eyes, nose, mouth, right in the middle of that image. Now, you know, when we travel around, and you could say, well, that's just fog. Why is there only one little bit of it and everything else is clear? You can see on the edges that the rest of it's clear. And I believe it's because there's a lot of negative energy that's come from somewhere there. You can decide what it is, where it comes from yourself, but it's not normal. Or is it? Look at this. This was a photograph taken of the man's girlfriend on a perfectly clear night. What are the white things floating? It's not snow. What's all the energy? You can see the young lady behind the shot. How come that's the best they could do? This is a bedroom where they take a picture over a bed where someone famous died. Look at that energy surrounding it. It's everywhere. And there's lots of these. What's that? One side of the forest track, completely normal. You can see all the trees, all the bushes. You look at the other side of the track and you've got that. How? What the hell is it? This is a cemetery. Well, you may think that all that on the right-hand side is a tree or something. It isn't. It's energy coming from one particular grave. Amazing. Imagine going into your garden, taking a picture of your garden late at night. And that's what you come back with. Fantastic shot. Here's a woman opening her Christmas presents the very year after some of her friends passed in a car accident. And if you look to the left below the lamp, there are 2 heads. And then above those heads, there's a white V-shaped or diamond-shaped stain that leads to another almost alien-esque head, and there's energy around her own head too. Just some great shots. Took a picture, having a night out, some tropical drinks. What the hell is that on the left-hand side? Where did that come from? And there again, another shot taken late at night. Two strange figures that don't seem to have any explanation. Now, this is a picture of a bonfire to symbolize a battle that was fought. But if you look to the right-hand side of the second black shape, which is just lumps of wooden wardrobes burning, can you see the face in the flames? That is a face, isn't it? Keep them coming. Does that look like an angel or an eagle or a dragon? You can see it's a police tape there, because there's been a murder, and all of a sudden this seems to fly overhead. Now there's an anomaly here that doesn't exist. Now the place you've got to look is for the second pointy gravestone, not the big one in the middle, the one to the right of it. Just look down, and just slightly to the left of the column, there's a face and a shoulder peering out from behind it. And on the other side, on the right-hand side of it, you can see a hand holding onto it. Now, this next one I'm saying is the best of the best of the best. Why? Because I took the shot and I saw it clearly. Although I didn't realize it when I first saw the picture. And I went back through my photographs, and I've got 3 shots of this. This is, look at that. Now, that's through the tunnel opposite the gateway into Chillingham Castle. That's opposite the main entrance of Chillingham Castle. We call it the Witchy Wood. And what's that? Who's that? Is that a woman? Is it a demon? It's energy of some kind. And it looks like a floating someone. And through there, of course, the mounds where witches were buried after they'd been pinned to trees. There's also some ley lines directly through there too. I'm just thinking, who took that shot? It's really good. Dead good. Anyway, about time I got something right. Oh, I've already done that one. Keep moving on. Well, you can't make zip out of that. That didn't come out terribly well. This is in Chillingham Castle's torture chamber. We'll be seeing it soon. And that is an image of the window. Now, if you look at all of the window, you might say, well, I can't see much. Look at the bottom 2 panels on the left-hand side. There's a woman dressed in what I think to be 50s or 60s garb, with the hair styled, eyes staring out. This is the main gate of Chillingham Castle. If you're looking for an orb, they were kind enough to put their torches on for us. And we heard some noises outside the gate. We went out, walked along the drive, took a few pictures, and when we came back, standing at the main door of the gate, one of the biggest orbs we'd ever taken a photograph of. And that's not this bit. That's the next bit. Anyway, some more stuff. Right, have we done all that? Oh, yeah, we're rocking. Cooking with gas. In the Lebanon, oh, this is just something else about the being passionate with animals. In the Lebanon, it's legally allowed to ravish, to have relations with any animal, any, as long as it's female. I mean, they're not perverse or anything. Come on. And in Key West in Florida, Patricia Wyatt rang the police because a stray pot-bellied pig, it's a Florida thing, a stray pot-bellied pig was having relations with her husband's Harley Davidson. And it caused £500 worth of damage, and the police were going to shoot it, but the man whose bike it was says, no, don't do that. Literally saved his bacon, and the pot-bellied pig was taken away, taken to an animal shelter, and somebody adopted him. So all well with the world. Oh my goodness. Anyway, let me quickly have a minor scan of some of the things that you've sent in. I know that there was lots before I even started. So sorry to hear that Heather's had a sore throat. And in light of what we were talking about relations with animals, sorry you were feeling a little hoarse. And Steve, my grandma used to say that I wasn't strong and minty. A strong and minty bullet half sucked. That's brilliant. Love that. £24 for a 2 kilogram box of midget gems. Bargain, says Steve. And Geppetto says, I buy black bullets in bulk. Black bullets to me were nana suckies. They were long trip in the car suckies, because we never had a car. But we went in my dad's best friend's car sometimes. And you always had to get sucky sweets, mint imperials, black bullets. If you didn't have them, you literally couldn't survive the trip. Jeanette, I'm watching from the lakes, Windermere, this week with my family. Wow, tremendous. Love the lakes. And why wouldn't you? For that, I'm just looking for the larger. Who can imagine Alan swearing to himself when he gets cut off? Savage. Savage. And at the very beginning, I went, I hope they didn't hear. You're already there. You're on my literally wavelength. I get it. I dig it. The steam will be coming out of his ears, as well as the air turning various shades of blue, exceeding blue. Definitely. Everybody has the right to freedom of speech. Nobody is ever going to agree with everybody else. That's true. Just pointless getting irritated about it is the thing. Gary says, if a bloke claimed to be the son of God today, he'd be given counselling, heavy medication to take back to his secure ward. There you go. Steve says, I'm looking forward to tomorrow then. Could do with a change of scenery. Yeah, bit of Antichrist. Bit of the return of the Christian Saviour. Aye. Makes a change from Trump in the news all the time, doesn't it? Or is he the Antichrist? That orange man once locked up and the key thrown away. Well, there you go. See, they're already getting there before me. Paul says, if all that's coming tomorrow, I'm going to stop in. I was going to go out. I wouldn't stop doing anything because of this, if I'm honest. They shouldn't have worried about his dirty mind. I'm in trouble. I got in trouble on Bensham Bank asking when the bus was due. Yeah, you never know when buses are going to give birth. Chris says they had to tell him how to get down from a duck's back. Oh, dear, 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 dear. I see where you've gone with this. The majority believe that their God will forgive them, Heather. Yeah, it's the forgiveness bit that I have trouble with, like Hitler. I'm totally sorry. That's all right then. In you go. I have trouble with that. It's not that I'm not the forgiving sort, but certain things are kind of serious. Also, I love going to Chillingham Castle, says Heather. So you should. Great place. And you're all looking forward to it. Earthquakes, famine, not in Cramlington, I hope, says Norm. It's supposed to be everywhere. Can you hear a rumble? No. Pics. Oh, now you know we're the ghost historians, so therefore it is vital that we take a look at ghosts of our past. And I have some aplenty. Now, just in case there's a rapture, this is San Francisco, 1910, when the earthquake hit there. So that's what one of the streets in Cramlington will look like in the morning. So get ready for it, especially for you, Norman. This is an old-fashioned rag man traveling up and down the streets. The rag men also, now, I don't know how hygienic this is, But the ragmen also had to carry ice for businesses that needed ice. Although I kind of think of a business back in the day that would, unless it was a bar or a restaurant of some kind. Now, if you've ever been to the Parthenon in Athens, it's an amazing place. The bottom part of it, where all of these buildings are and where the roads are, there's no roads that size these days. It's a place called the Plaka, where there's loads of restaurants and everybody goes out soireeing and promenading. But that's what it looked like less than 100 years ago. Nothing there, pretty much nothing there at all. Imagine you're driving your tractor and all of a sudden you hear a and you see a plane about to crash and a man who's jumped out of the parachute without enough room for the parachute to open fully. These are troops coming back from World War II. Any idea what the boat is? It's the Queen Elizabeth, using all of the best liners in Britain to bring our people home. Love this. Now, you might recognize the album if you're a music head. I know we got a lot of musos that watch what we do. That's Rubber Soul, the Beatles. Wow. Quality control. Before they put any album in there, the first 10,000 printed, you had to play every track to make sure they worked. 10,000 of them. I hope it wasn't just her. Now, I love this. One of the early TVs with a little compartment beneath it for the radio, another little compartment to keep your drinks in, an ice bucket on the top. Oh, you're all set. You're all set. Get Gogglebox on. This is the man who invented the very first toaster. And it's just on his right-hand side, your left, his right, and you can see it. You put your toast on that flap, then you lift the flap up, sizzle, 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 nice warm toast with butter on it. This is just a picture of the day after the Titanic went down. Moments in history. Why are those women looking at those other women? Are they cute? Yeah, kind of. They're cute-ish. This was the very first time anywhere in America that women wore trousers. How about that? Women used to work in factories, 12-hour shifts, 5 days a week. And then they had to get home to make the tea. Otherwise, their men would be upset at them. It was a man's world back then, wasn't it? This is American Cavalry Unit. What they didn't tell you was you could take your wife and your children with you when you went into battle. You left them in the tent. And out you went. Do a bit of shooting Confederates or Union officers, depending which side you were on. I never knew that happened. One of the last pictures of the Titanic leaving Ireland, disappearing up the channel. And the place where all of those people are standing, only about a week or so later, the bodies of some of the passengers were laid out on that dock. We did a show from there once. It's on Robson's Well. Now, it got to the point in America during the 20s and 30s, during the Great Depression, that people couldn't afford to buy places to live and they couldn't afford to rent, and many of them weren't working. So some people decided to get hold of an old vehicle, and that is indeed an old vehicle, and using lumps of wood and old doors, turn it into a place to live. But their bed was too wide for the back of the lorry, so they had to extend it a bit. And they slept, ate, lived, and toileted all in there. I'm not reading what's on his t-shirt. This man was a ski instructor. He got sacked for that. And because of that t-shirt, all ski instructors now have to wear uniforms. The world's first robot that actually moved and talked. What year? 1931. Wow. Now this, I know how many of you love the horror films like I do. This is the first, the real Godzilla having a break for a cup of tea. And he's just slid out of the costume. But there is Godzilla having a cuppa. Why not? Spoil yourself. Who's this, do you think? He's holding his little pistol, got a little pistol in his hand. Who's that then? Have a guess. Get yourself in comments. That is George Armstrong Custer when he was being trained. How about that? West Point Academy. This is a woman who's essentially doing this for hours at a time. And because she's churning butter and the cat's already licking the various spatter that comes out of it, she's making that kind of thing. And she's reading a book. And it was said that she could read half a book by the time she turned that to butter. Don't know whether she used the technique for anything else, but you can dream, can't you? There you are. This is a woman, and a fine woman too, because she's doing the domestic chores like a little woman should do. Come on. This was an image put together by women to show all of the jobs that women did in a week. All of the vegetables they cooked, all of the food they cooked, all of the plates they washed, all of the ironing that they did, and all the shirts are hanging up in the background. Did it make any difference? Not a jot. This is a lady nurse who fought in the war and saved the lives of thousands. Now, you know how do you play the slots? I know some of you do, and some of you now just use the computer version. It's not the same. Pulling the handle, and you call it a one-armed bandit. Why do you call it a one-armed bandit? Well, it's robbing you, of course. But it's called a one-armed bandit because they created machines that were bandits. And this is one of the original, the real one-armed bandits. Brilliant. You know, people have said, and I've never had a haircut that's called, you know, like a bowl haircut. You put a bowl on somebody's head, you just cut round the edge. But there are hundreds of photographs online of people who cannot be bothered to barber properly, so they just get some scissors and cut everything off that isn't under the bowl. And there's a woman doing precisely that. And we got this. Motorist attention. You're on your honour. Fresno County has no speed cops. So they'll not be needed. The speed limit's 30 miles an hour. Just stick to 30 miles an hour. Of course. Should have known. I love this whole idea. It's kind of like Fonzie and Happy Days, where you would write on the side of your car, what's your car called? This bucket of rust? It's called the Boogie Woogie. And I've got my babe with me and my best friend who can't get a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And he's just hanging out as a third wheel on the cart. Brilliant. You'd love it, wouldn't you, if you had one of them? I like this too. This is in La Belle France. And there was a flood. And the police still had to do their job. So while everybody else is trying to stay out of the plunge, he had to stand on the same corner where he always stood, up to his waist in water. There you go. This is one of the great photographs. You see this guy in the middle with the mustache and the little goatee and the cap. He's a Japanese soldier. And the war ended. And he didn't know it had ended. And he was still fighting anybody that came onto the island that he'd been told to defend. All of his other colleagues were killed. All the enemy troops left, leaving him absolutely on his own. And he stayed fighting nobody, just living there for an extra 20, 30 years till he was found. And then everybody thought, you nugget. It ended like 30 years ago. What are you doing? Get a grip. I love this too because I had one of them. It looked like a little case. It was called a dansette. And the speaker was in the back. And you could put there's a 78 on there now, so it's traveling at a right lick. 78 revolutions per minute. LPs went at 33, and singles, the little smaller ones, they went at 45 RPM, revolutions per minute. Loved it. There's another woman, just being happy, being a lady, doing what women are built for. just to breed and do the ironing. Oh, and the cooking, and looking after the kids, and cleaning the house, and doing a job to bring some more money in. Clean the step, do the garden, while the man lies back, watches the football, and belches. There's a train. Could you imagine being on that train, looking out the window just at that moment and looking down, asking for it? Love this too. The Beatles were massive. It's the 1960s. Alfred Hitchcock. Hitch lost his cock there briefly. Alfred Hitchcock playing the part of Ringo with a Beatles wig. I bought a Beatles wig back in the day because my mum wouldn't let me have long hair because I was only a little baby. I was only a bab. I was, how old was I? When the Beatles first started, 62, 7-year-old. When I saw this picture, I had to share it with you. Now, I really like Susie Quatro. I think Susie Quatro is lovely. But I met her when she just come off stage in Newcastle City Hall. Only time I've met her. And when you sweat in leather for a couple of hours at a time, you don't want to be standing next to them, even when they look like Susie. Love this as well. I wonder how many of you remember when you used to have to, well, if you wanted a photograph of somebody, you had to take pictures, wind the film, take the film into one of these kind of places. Sometimes they were in Boots the Chemist and places like that. And they would develop the pictures, and you had to go back in a week to get all your pictures. Blimey, how times have changed. I love this too. And yes, it's real. This is in France, and it's a French car company. I think it's a Renault. And they just invented Bic pens, ballpoint pens. So they took literally a pen out, decorated with other pens, keep big pens, with Bic written on the side. That's the Bic Mobile in France. How about that? Tremendous. Now, this is something that most people don't know. They're rebuilding Stonehenge. Stonehenge didn't look like what Stonehenge looks like now. A lot of the columns had fallen over and must have been an early rapture, maybe, some earthquakes going on. So they got hold of some of the strongest cranes that they had in Britain at the time to lift some of the stones, to rebuild the columns, stick a bit of plastering going on, a bit of concreting, and making sure that the bases and the foundations were strong. My apologies. That's a car crash. Now, I don't know whether they've done this on purpose because it's America. And they've made sure there was a woman behind the wheel before they took a photograph of a crash. Men crashed more than women back in the early days. And I just think it's actually quite hard to crash it when your top speed's 15 miles an hour. Look at this. Somebody wrote to me about 4 months ago saying Native Americans are not particularly attractive. I think many of them are, in the same way that an awful lot of us pasty people aren't particularly attractive. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and she's gorgeous. So there you go. Just thought I would demonstrate that. This is a man with a bell selling sarnies, selling sandwiches street to street. And why not? Why doesn't anybody do that now? Go around housing estates selling sandwiches, right about lunchtime. I know they do it on some industrial estates. You'll get somebody who says, every day I'll come in at 11:30 and get your orders if anybody wants to order something from the bakery. And then they come back during the lunch hour with all of their hot sandwiches or cold sandwiches. There's money to be made. And going back to 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, this is definitely a 80s, 90s moment, isn't it? Do you remember when phones were that big? And you had to pull the aerial out, otherwise you'd get no signal at all. And how about this? One of our more exotic pets. Now, why? Why is this bird in a woman's netty? Well, during the war, World War II, the zoos were being bombed, and they were asking members of the public if they would be prepared to look after an animal or a bird at home. And this lady says, well, I can look after one of the bigger birds, maybe. And she did. And then after the war, gave it back to the zoo. Now, tomorrow, Wednesday, we have a Robson's World flash sale. 2-for-1 bundle. Hell's Angels, Crimes, Killings, and the Undead, which is a cracking show. And the other one is On Your Bike, Riding the Dandy Horse. So anybody that rides motorbikes, that's part one. They're not connected. There's no link to them. And On Your Bike is all about cycling. So if you know anybody that's into cycling, you've got two specials, 2-for-1 bundle tomorrow, but just for 24 hours, midnight tomorrow night, it ends. And remember, we're not on tomorrow night, so you might want something to have a listen to. Would be grand if you did. Now, don't forget, Thursday, 8 o'clock. Thursday, not tomorrow, Thursday, 8 o'clock. Told. Clues, where are we going? An arena of champions. An arena of champions, we're going there. We're also going to a famous Romans town. A famous Romans town. Bit of a ponce. Okay. Bit of a ponce. An arena of champions, a famous Roman town, bit of a ponce. 3 clues. We'll be there. Now, me touching wood has got us to the end of the show with far too many distractions, so apologies for that. And I know we've hit some issues. We've talked about some ickiness because of you, and we're happy to do that if you want us to talk about. These are real things that happen. I mean, they're nothing too scandalous, and hope you've enjoyed them. Thursday night, 8 o'clock, Ghost Hunt Cracker. You'll want to be with us, and most of you will know everywhere we go. Everywhere. That sounds pretty cool. Bushy. We also have Hollywood McShane back with us again. And until then, from everybody associated with the Ghost Historian, I'm starting to get the hang of this bit. And until we are together again, keep an eye on Robson's World as always. Always great new stuff coming your way. And until we are together again, good luck with the rapture tomorrow, if that's your bag. I hope you get to meet your man. And make sure it's the right one. Remember, there's one that's the goodie, and there's one that's the baddie. Try and stick on the right side if you can. And until we're back together again, Thursday, 8 o'clock, from me, Alan Robson. Good night. God bless you. And I wish you well until we're back together again. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being with me. Bye-bye. I've gone.